Chapter 1. The Birth of the Destroyer. Destruction, Annihilation in a Wasteland. A pair of female eyes watches upon the destruction on this deserted landscape. It was this again. The dream of terror she had been having for a few days now, and it always begins with explosion and destruction. The dream of costume-wearing heroes being destroyed by a single individual, destroying everything he looks upon before looking directly at the one staring at him. He raises his hand forward to her, and that was when the dream ended for the young girl. Gasping out from the desk, her face was buried on. Natsumi Hikari is a petite young lady, mature for her age but young to others. She has long brownish dark hair and darkish brown eyes. Wearing a simple shirt with hoodie, jean shorts with white ankle straps and long stockings. She breathes calmly, having that dream again and even more intense than before. It's only been getting stronger and more real. She tries to relax, her legs shaken as well her hands. That dream again, Natsumi tells herself. Not wanting to fall asleep due to that dream, but all she can do is be strong and overcome it. She turns towards the photo of her grandfather, Eijiro Hikari. She frowns. Missing him since the day he passed. It was a dark night and she arrived late from school to find her beloved grandfather and only relative, the ground, dead. It was the hardest time of her life. No parents meant she had no one to raise her. But she did her best to hold on, not wishing to close down the photo studio her grandfather loved just as much as her parents and herself. Natsumi smiles sadly, reaching for the photo and hugs it. She can still remember how her grandfather used to hug her. Oji-chan, I miss you. She mutters out, tears dripping from her eyes. She quickly wipes off her tears, reaching for her coffee mug, slightly warm, and drinks on it. Natsumi makes a bitter mouth expression, also adding with a sweat drop, "And I miss how you brew coffee." She sighs as the door of the studio opens up and immediately she attends to her customer with her cute helping expression. "Welcome to Hikari Studio. How may I?" Immediately the woman shoves the girl a photo taken so badly that it is unfocused. "Look at this photo. I didn't pay this much for this." The woman yells at Natsumi, complaining furiously. "And mine's too." Right behind her is another customer coming in, shoving his badly taken photo. This turned awful. Another customer states with many right behind the first, all demanding the same in loud chants. "We want a refund." Natsumi just stares at them silently, eyeing the photos and recognizing them all too well. "Refund. They all still chanted until Natsumi stands up from her seat. She politely excuses herself with a bow. "One moment please." Natsumi leaves her post and grabs a bag with something so important, worried it might get robbed like the other creation her grandfather created. Grabbing her favorite beanie hat and putting it over her head while putting on her shoes near the door entrance, Natsumi runs out from her studio while screaming furiously. Tsukasa, a couple with the guy looking overweight but with money, was approached by a photographer to take their photo. The man wasn't sure but his girl wanted her photo taken. So the couple takes a pose as the photographer orders them. Hold still. The two blink and nod, being still. Smirking slightly, one Tsukasa Kadoya takes their photo through his classic, upgraded camera around his neck. He loves the classics and his camera is the classic. He aims through the photo hole, making the precise perfect view for the best photo. Perfection takes precision. Angle, light, shade and patience. Just like it should. He tells himself, praising his talent. Attaching his special photo maker device on the bottom of his camera, the photo is made in an instant. He flaps it and examines it with such satisfaction. Perfect. Tsukasa proclaims, handing the photo to the couple having already received his payment. The couple stares at it only to widen their eyes, speechless. Smirking at their expression, Tsukasa asks, feeling the satisfaction even more. "How does it look?" Immediately the large overweight grabs Tsukasa by the neck, yelling furiously while holding up the badly taken photo. "What is this? Are you trying to get yourself killed?" Forming a frown, being grabbed by a novice, Tsukasa lifts up his left hand and grabs on the man's hand around his neck, pulling it off him. He gently drops as the man panics before yelling as Tsukasa twirls it around, causing him agony and pain. I suggest you be careful touching someone like that. It's just too inhuman. He warns the thug, twisting his arm, now causing him to scream. Just then a familiar voice calls out to the brown-headed, "Tsukasa-kun." Tsukasa, sighing, turns to see the petite bosses of his. He frees the man from his suffering, greeting Natsumi in his taunting nickname for her while having a smug smirk on his face. "What do you need, Natsumi-kan? I've just made another perfect." She moves up to him and places her left palm over Tsukasa's eyes. He startles as the hands move away and Natsumi is gone. He panics as she is now behind him. With a single thumb up, Natsumi performs her family's secret technique, the laughing pressure point, striking the target's pressure point by his neck. It causes said user to laugh uncontrollably as well as stunning them slightly temporarily, but it has never failed. Not even Tsukasa can resist laughing with no self-control. "Ha ha ha, what the hell? I told you not to do that again." Wearing off that annoying trick, Tsukasa yells annoyed, doing his hardest to not explode. "Oh, I'm sorry, not." Natsumi shouts in a lying position, holding up the badly taken photos from her customers. Tsukasa sweat drops, trying to not show his uneasiness, looking away from the photos almost uncaringly. This is the 60th, Natsumi begins, reminding him only for Tsukasa to correct her with a smug smirk. 64th. Natsumi steams furiously, calming down to resume while holding up the photos. "The point is you screw up with these photos." He scoffs at her concerns, simply reminding her of his perfect state of being. "Please, this is nothing. I've learned and mastered everything possible, from all types of martial arts to multiple languages to complex mathematics. Heck, I know how to dance tango. But not taking photos. Tsukasa-kun." Natsumi, however, protests with a grin on her face. Tsukasa looks away with even more unease, simply responding with his hands in his pockets, defeated. Working progress. Natsumi hums, smirking, mischievous, wanting to torment him more, but then the large man shouts for his money. "Refund." Tsukasa immediately narrows his eyes at him with such a cold gaze that the man gasps in terror. "I don't do refunds. My photography is a one-time charge with no," he explains his policies, only to get jabbed by the neck by Natsumi's finger again. Tsukasa laughs uncontrollably as Natsumi snatches the money the client paid for and gives it back to him, apologizing kindly. "Here you go, sir." The man quickly takes it and leaves with his girlfriend, not wanting to be near that guy again. Tsukasa gazes at Natsumi, who sticks her tongue at him. The two had an awkward silent walk back to the studio. Natsumi finally speaks up, smiling. "You had it coming. Party pooper." Tsukasa just mutters, adjusting his camera through the knobs and camera lenses. Natsumi stares at him firmly. She sighs, already tired of finding him screwing and giving her family business a bad name. Taking photos needs patience, hard work and love. Tsukasa has none of that. She still remembers the day he came to her life, walking in and demanding to learn to become the perfect photographer. Of course Natsumi kicked him out of her home, but he walked in immediately after, not planning to leave. She told him to find a class, but Tsukasa scoffed at that, preaching that a business photographer will teach him more so than just some course, that he won't waste his time doing tests and assignments when he could already become one now. Natsumi should have not accepted him, but he offered her rent payment in advance, and well, here they are now. "How long do you intend to stay in my home?" Natsumi asks, eyeing him. Tsukasa with a near-blank expression eyes her before smirking and taunts her with a joke. "What's the difference between the US and yogurt?" Natsumi gives off a blank expression, extremely confused. She shrugs, not sure, with Tsukasa answering with a slight chuckle. "If you leave yogurt alone for 300 years, it develops a culture." She makes a more disturbing expression, sweat dropping. Tsukasa groans, adjusting his coat, and explains his point. Point is I'm not leaving until I've become a photographer master. If you get there. Natsumi replies, now giggling at the unlikely event. Tsukasa groans gazing at her and just states with a cold tone as he walks forward. And then when I do master it, I'll be passing through this world. Natsumi frowns to herself a bit, admitting that Tsukasa is a screwball, but honestly her life has changed to be livelier because of him. She soon smiles, patting his back to Tsukasa's confusion, and tells him with the same smiling face, "Come on, let's." However, before she could finish her words, Tsukasa felt an ominous pressure. Suddenly the world around them begins to shake. It is a violent earthquake, as if the world is being split in half. However, it soon stops. Natsumi blinks awkwardly, asking concern, "Was that a quake?" Tsukasa wouldn't know until he notices something up in the sky. He widens his eyes slightly, muttering in shock, "No." She blinks, looking up, and startles seeing some kind of mirror-like water thing. Tsukasa is shocked. How an aurora curtain opens up without his will. Before they knew it, creatures emerge from the portal and begin shooting out energy blasts upon the city. Screams from humans are heard as the monsters come at them and attack them, either beating them up or killing them, or eating them. What the? Natsumi utters out in terror while Tsukasa gazes seriously at the portal. Just then the portal moves and flies at them. Tsukasa panics, having enough time to push Natsumi out of the way, but the portal slams and traps her instead. "Natsumi!" Tsukasa yells, rushing towards the portal to see Natsumi on the other side, seemingly in a destroyed world. "Tsukasa!" Natsumi shouts, banging on the surface of the reflecting window, and can't go through it. Tsukasa scoffs, slamming his own hands, and focuses, trying to enter it but couldn't. This was disturbing for him, as he should be able to do this. So why not now? His train of thought is stopped by Natsumi's screams. He looks up to see monsters surrounding Natsumi, seemingly about to eat her alive. More so, as they had eaten someone on the other side until they turned into ashes. "Natsumi! Run!" He orders her, unable to do anything to help her on his end. Natsumi shivers, too surrounded to get past the creatures. Gulping, she reaches to the bag she's wearing. "I don't have a choice," she mutters, opening it. Tsukasa watches, confused and worried. Why is she not running? That is until she pulls out something strange. Holding is a seemingly broken white device with black stripes, as well as a gray orb in the middle and different symbols around it inscribed. It also has a small green orb on the left middle side of the device, with two handles on the sides of the device. She also pulls out what could be considered as also a broken white metal binder-like box with some blank cards inside of it, all except one card with an image and a word written in English, "Decade." "What are those?" Tsukasa questions, puzzled, never seeing those items before since living in her home. Natsumi, still gulping, prays, squeezing on the main device. "Please attach." She places the device in the middle of her waist side, and nothing happens. Natsumi groans, trying to pull the handles to open and slide the card in, but nothing still happens. And to make it worse, the card becomes sparks of energy and the belt wouldn't attach around her waist. "Ah, come on," Natsumi complains, shaking the device, even whacking it on the floor, annoyed. Tsukasa watches, sweat dropping on what the heck she's doing with that toy. She still groans, upset, eyeing the device, and asks out loud to her deceased grandfather, "Oji-chan, why won't this thing work on me?" The monsters resume approaching her. Natsumi panics heavily, not sure what she could do. She thinks this might be the end for her until she remembers words her grandfather told her long before while working on the belt's completion. "Remember, Natsumi? This belt belongs to the destroyer, and he will be the only one to use its powers. And you will know by his heroic actions." Natsumi could hear banging. Turning to see Tsukasa trying to bang the portal to get in. She could tell he's trying, then remembering the rest of her grandfather's words when she asked him why he was a destroyer. "Oh, why is he called a destroyer? It's hard to say, but I want to believe this person is capable of becoming a hero." "Natsumi!" Natsumi snaps out of Tsukasa's voice, calling out as the monsters get closer. looking at the devices. Maybe, no, but maybe, he can? She looks back at the monsters slowly taking their time towards her, and she might not have any choice but to take a chance. Nodding. Natsumi takes that chance, pushing both devices through the portal, and they are accepted through. Tsukasa startles seeing them trying to pass into his side, and she begs of Tsukasa-kun. Put it on. Natsumi orders him, almost pleading for him to use the belt. Single quote ellipsis. Huh? Tsukasa just utters, extremely puzzled. Snapping by his response. Natsumi yells at him, serious yet cute voice and face. Just do it, so help me. I don't want to die, Baka. Smirking softly, Tsukasa just nods firmly. Not fully understanding all of this, but he's not going to let Natsumi be killed by these monsters. No, thinking of Seo, he won't become powerless again and cause another death. This time, he will change that. He reaches to the broken belt and binder with his bare hands, and as he grabs them on his side, the two items shine brightly. Tsukasa and Natsumi watch as the two devices come out into Tsukasa, fully fixed and brand new. Okay, Tsukasa tells himself of the surprise that just happened. Just then a card pops out from the card binder. It shines oddly brightly. He stares at it, reaching out and grabs it. The card stops glowing, showing it being the Decade card. Tsukasa stares at it, oddly drawn by it, but ignores it, remembering Natsumi needed him. So this is the gist of saving Natsumi-kan. Tsukasa concludes that it is the only way to save her. Not wasting time. He puts the device over his front waist, and suddenly it glows, shooting out a strap of metal from both sides around his waist and connects from his backside, strapped and becoming a belt. Oddly smirking, Tsukasa holds up the card forward and announces, "Let's get started." Tsukasa taps on the side of the card with his index finger before shouting loudly, "Henshin." He flips the card, having its back facing forward, and slides it into the device's card slot. The device glows red with large words spelling Kamen Ride in red as it spoke through the belt. Kamen Ride. Tsukasa pushes the handles of the device towards the device, which flips it vertical to horizontal as the back logo of the card appears in hologram red colors. Once more the device shouts those words. Decade. The belt glows as Tsukasa does a simple pose with his right hand moved to his side slightly, as did the left hand, while he's surrounded by 9 large symbols in pale white images, each having a being that is dressed like a dressed mask being. They all rotate towards Tsukasa as the lights fuse with him, and now he's dressed in a Kamen Rider outfit, all while the aurora curtain between himself and Natsumi responds to the transformation and explodes, shattering and seemingly merging both realities. The blast pushes the monsters back slightly too. Then the orb on the device shoots out 9 card-like red objects over his head and inserts themselves into the top of the head helmet. They glow for a moment before turning black, and then the rest of the outfit gains colors instantly, with the bug-like visor eyes glow green. Natsumi watches speechless as the monsters surrounding her now all stare down at this individual. Tsukasa now wears a strange outfit that is a strange reddish pinkish magenta face helmet with 7 black rectangle objects sort of through the helmet, even though the green bug-like visor eyes, with 2 of the last rectangles stick out like antennas, and the middle rectangle having a smaller, yellow rectangle-like gem. The rest of the costume is a latex-like, reddish magnate outfit with black as well as armor on the chest, shoulders and legs. The armor has the reddish magenta on the shoulders, the halfway armbands and the sides of the chest, while the rest is black with a large white stripe with black inner stripe on the middle going towards the left, actually sticking out, as well as a smaller white stripe with the same black inner stripe in the middle over the left shoulder, that when looking at the two they resemble a tilted X-shaped. The right shoulder pad has a red stripe with an inner black strip on the side. The stomach to bottoms has the reddish magenta on the sides with black on the middle. The arms have black on the sides with white in the inner sides, with each also having a large black rectangle part sticking out on the elbows, white wristbands. Each hand is covered in black gloves. The leg armor also has the same magenta on the sides with a wide black strip in the middle and the inner portions having white. He also wears rectangle shaped like black shoes. Natsumi stares, taken back that it worked. The Deca driver worked. For Tsukasa? Tsukasa checks himself out and turns to a broken mirror. He eyes his reflection and actually scoffs, thinking he was daydreaming. He was some kind of bug hero in thighs, and it looks as silly and stupid as it's supposed to be. I look ridicules. Tsukasa admits eyeing it not before facing the monster and proclaims acting rather cocky. Best make it work in a hero way, no? They growl menacingly. Decade cracks a chuckle by raising his hand and moves his fingers back and forward in a hand-taunt gesture, asking in a cocky tone. Who's first? A monster cries angrily and charges, swinging its right arm at Decade, who steps the left and dodges it easily. Decade extends back his right fist and swings it forward, striking the creature across its chest. His single punch cracks and shatters the monster into pieces. Natsumi gasps, just speechless at the sight of it. Decade wipes his hands as if brushing dirt off them as he walks up to the next slowly. The monsters each try to attack him, but Decade blocks or evades their attacks. He then roundhouse kicks one of them so hard it explodes into shattered pieces. The others panic as Decade didn't waste time striking the rest with such speed and strength, destroying them without problems. Natsumi blinks awkwardly more as just then more monsters appear. Decade sees them as the belt glows, almost giving him information on how to fight. Almost chuckling. Decade declares while pulling out a card. Let's try this. The blank card shines and changes. He pulls the handles of the card inserted back and slides the new card by literally dunking it into it with precise aim and without trying from his chest position. Attack ride. The belt voice begins declaring as Decade pushes the handles forward, triggering the belt's power. The ride booker then flies off his waist side and transforms, becoming a black sword with the binder intact as a guard with a black hilt. Slash! The monsters stagger by this as Decade swipes the blade with his free hand by its back end and he comes at them, slashing each one of them before they could react. They try responding, but Decade simply evades and slashes them over and over with no chance of counter, destroying them. However, more different creatures appear shooting out long-range attacks with sparks flying out from Decade as he's pushed back. But he stands up, brushes off the damage he took like it was nothing. More of them, huh? Decade proclaims, pulling out a card and slides in. Attack ride. The belt speaks out while Decade reshapes the sword now into a blaster-like gun. He takes aim and fires the trigger. Blast! He fires multiple rapid shots across the monsters, destroying them without trying. Decade twirls his gun, changing back to a binder and places it back on his left waist. He wipes his hands as a monster materializes behind him. Natsumi sees it and panics, warning him. Tsukasa. Behind you. The monster swings to attack, but Decade ducks and back leg kicks the creature back. Decade, not turning around, just pulls another card glowing and throws it upward as he pulls the handles of the belt away. The monster charges, but the card falls and slides into the Deca driver, speaking mechanically. Attack ride. Decade then pushes the handles forward, triggering it. Invisible. In an instant, Decade glows red-blue-green before vanishing altogether. The monster pauses in shock, but before it could register where the rider went, it's suddenly smacked around by the invisible Decade, destroyed instantly by his unseen kick. Natsumi is also left startled, wondering where Tsukasa is before she's suddenly touched by the shoulders. She gasps out screaming, instantly turning to use the laughing pressure point only to be grabbed hanging by a turning visible Decade. Don't scare me like that, Baka. Natsumi shouts, angrily, scared that it was another of those creatures. Tsukasa finds this amusing because her little annoying technique can't do a thing to him. Decade sets her down, proclaiming, "Sorry, getting used to these powers." Natsumi glares, still annoyed, but their moment is cut short as a monster shoots out from the ground towards them. Decade, however, reacts faster, kicking the creature back as he pulls and tosses another blank card now transformed into the card slot, pushing the handle on side and the other responding pushing forward. Attack ride. The device shouts as Decade glows and duplicates into 4 identical versions of himself. Illusion. Natsumi slightly drops her jaw to see 4 Tsukasas. The 4 Decades wipe their hands coming at the monster in 4 different directions. Each one smacks the monster with such force it cracks and explodes it. Each Decade wipes their own hands again before the copies vanish with the original remaining. He turns slowly to see the last monster, shaken by the very pressure of this rider. Last one, huh? Pity. He proclaims, pulling one another card glowing. Decade once more inserts another new card by tossing it into the card inserter. And then he wipes his hands off any dirty as the belt begins shouting for the final attack. Final attack ride. Materializing is a holographic large card in front of Decade. He leaps up as the card follows and duplicates up to 10, now pointing and following their pattern to Decade towards the monster. Decade. The belt shouts with Decade diving downward into a rider kick through the first holographic card, seemingly disappearing as he goes through each one while accelerating and boosting his power, and before the monster could react, he gets kicked by Decade emerging out of the last holographic card. The kick releases a powerful explosion, destroying the monster as Decade emerges, wiping his hand together completely untouched. Natsumi watches this just to be left silent. The Deca driver finally worked, her grandfather's hard work finally paid off. Awesome. Oji-chan, you did it. She mutters, trying not to cry but smile proudly. However, this moment is cut short as she notices from a distance that more monsters are coming. She panics, warning him. Tsukasa-kun. Decade, ignoring her slightly, taps on his belt's green button and the belt glows. An aurora curtain manifests and emerges out as a strange bike temporarily riding itself. The motor-like bike is oddly designed based on Decade with a white, black striped and magenta colors with a rectangle-like head on the front and back along with bright orange-like headlights in the front with 2 more headlights on both sides. Natsumi just stares speechless on how he just did that. She still asks him, taken back. How did you did that? Decade moves the handles apart as the transformation becomes undone and Tsukasa returns to normal, adjusting his coat, oddly taken back by the power he was wielding. It felt otherworldly, but the results were the same. It did the job. Tsukasa eyes Natsumi and just answers her as honestly as he put it, looking down at the belt still on him. Not sure. The belt is just helping me learn its powers. Almost transferring me stuff I never knew. It's informative. For a belt. Tsukasa pulls off the belt, which oddly responds, and he puts it behind his back. He walks up to the bike, putting on one of the helmets it had and rides on it. He starts ramming it on, ordering his annoying boss. Hop on, Natsumi-kan. Natsumi blinks, blushing, and nods, not wanting to be here anymore. She rushes over, putting on the helmet, and rides on his back, wrapping her arms around his waist. Tsukasa oddly smirks, ramming the engines, and the bike rides off into another aurora curtain, escaping the monsters. However, one figure watches this, twirling a gun as this person speaks with a male voice. So that's the Tsukasa Kadoya of this world. The male cracks a smirk, uttering out, interesting. A portal opens up as Tsukasa and Natsumi exit out riding on the bike. He stops in front of the studio. Natsumi sighs partly until hearing the screams of terror with the monsters still terrorizing her world. She groans, worrying with Tsukasa stating, removing the bike helmet and getting off the bike. We're home though. Natsumi eyes him with a look of rage. Tsukasa eyes it uncaring, adjusting his camera and takes a photo of her face, just replying, relax. Why don't you? How can I relax with that happening? Natsumi shouts angrily, pointing at the destruction still going on. Tsukasa sighs, closing his hands, and raises his right hand forward. The monsters from the distances and flames were all swallowed by manifestation of those see-through silver portals of energy, moving fast as if they were Pac-Man. Natsumi slightly drops her jaws, questioning him. Why, you can summon those? But that previous one was different, somewhat. Tsukasa confirms, concerned how that portal was different seemingly. He isn't sure how to put it, but he did know that mirror that started all of this wasn't his. However, right now he has different concerns as he pulls out the Decadriver and ride Booker with both hands. He eyes her and questions her. Why did you have these? Natsumi walks up examining both devices and is amazed they work properly now. At least she figured out who they were meant for, explaining it. My grandfather created them. He said a destroyer would one day claim it, but he said he would be a hero too. And I think that's you. Tsukasa-kun. I'm no hero. With a cold face refusing to admit such nonsense, Tsukasa simply replies, putting them back on him. If he was a hero, then he wouldn't have left Seo to die. He's nothing more but a fool. If anything, this destroyer part is more like him. Natsumi frowns, not having a clue what he meant by that. Even though the two have lived together for a while, she knows basically nothing about Tsukasa's past, but his family is dead. It's the one thing they can both relate about. Wiping off his hands, Tsukasa declares with a smirk. Come on, let's drink coffee. Make a cup, Natsumi-kan. Natsumi sweat drops and sighs, agreeing. She needs a cup after this craziness. The two walk towards the studio and both notice the door is open. Guess they have an uninvited guest. Natsumi groans, worrying, leaning behind Tsukasa, whose sweat drops, annoyed how much of a scaredy cat she can be. He ignores it, pulling out the binder and changing it into its gun form. Guess he can use it outside the transformation. He holds the weapon close, walking forward. Inside the house, however, something watches the group walk inside the studio with glowing red eyes. Tsukasa and Natsumi walk inside, looking like everything was normal except the strange aroma of cooking. Who's cooking? She questions, puzzled, though she does love the smell. Tsukasa gives her an annoying, questionable sweat drop look just walking forward. He leaps to the view of the door to the kitchen, blaster at hand, but just widens his eyes heavily. Natsumi blinks, leaning her to peek, and soon she too widens her eyes. What the? The two utter out, taken back at what they are staring at. They look at the massive feast of food, mostly the super large bowl of rice. The actual surprise was that this whole feast was cooked by what the two humans could describe as a small, at best half a leg size, purple, tailed winged lizard, like with red striped chest scale, red claws, dragon-like ears, and a long purple tail. He was wearing a black gangster-like 30s business outfit. Just the top black blazer and shirt with a yellow tie with red horizontal stripe and black, two roundish tip fedora hat with yellow band with red vertical stripe. The lizard sniffs the warm cooked rice and growls, showing his fangs and red slitter eyes while flapping his wings behind his back. Ah! It smells so delicious. The small creature expresses joyfully, grabbing chopsticks, and begins to dine in, hungrily. Tsukasa and Natsumi just are speechless, watching this thing eat like a human. Wagging his tail, he then asks, eyeing the two, "You two want to eat?" Natsumi panics how this creature notices them. She gulps, asking Tsukasa worryingly, "Is that a lizard?" The creature suddenly freezes up with a stunned expression. Tsukasa then questions, humming, "I thought it was a gecko." Natsumi nods rapidly, just thinking about that. The two did not notice the lizard-like creature letting out steam from its ears and mouth, burning up in fury. His temper was burning out of pure fury. "I am not a goddamn lizard or gecko." The small lizard lets out a furious roar, opening his mouth, showing his fangs, and breathes flames from it. Natsumi screams out of terror, hiding behind Tsukasa as a shield, who stares relaxed and nonchalant, though with signs of sweating says otherwise. "Dragon. I am a dragon." The purple lizard dragon proclaims, violent and growling. Tsukasa eyes it, almost not wanting to believe him, but since it breathed flames out of its mouth, he can believe. Panting, the small dragon calms down while adjusting his blazer. "And I'm not here to harm you too. He speaks now with a relaxed, firm nature, adjusting his fedora hat. Tsukasa didn't buy it, pointing his blaster at him. Alright, you're not like the other monsters. Then who the hell are you? He demands, not in the mood for his nonsense. The dragon eyes the blaster, and before Tsukasa could react, the ride booker was no longer in his hand. He startles heavily, as does Natsumi, pointing at the dragon holding it. The creature hums, examining it with his red dragon eyes, able to change it into a sword and then changes back into its binder form. The dragon with the hat tosses the binder back to Tsukasa, who catches it before the dragon proclaims with a taunt and smirk, "I'm just a passing through a mortal dragon. Remember that." Tsukasa Kadoya. Tsukasa stares at this lizard thing, astounded who the hell he is to know his name. No one but Natsumi should know his name. The dragon eyes his look and then snaps his fingers, correcting himself, tapping his hat slightly. "I guess now I would also call you Kamen Rider Decade." Kamen Rider? Natsumi now questions, seemingly recalling that name from her nightmare. Even Tsukasa is interested, as the belt seems to have given him knowledge on that name. The dragon eyes Natsumi and smiles, hovering up to her, and says, bowing to her politely, reaching her hand, "You must be Natsumi Hikari then? Eijiro told me much about his beloved granddaughter." Natsumi blushes as the lizard kisses her hand kindly and backs away, tapping his hat again. "Who are you, sir?" she asks him, taken back. Tsukasa nods, also wanting to know now. The dragon eyes both, with one eye covered by the ends of his fedora hat. He smirks, showing his dragon fang. "My name is Dragonic, and I've come to help you to prevent the destruction of the Rider worlds, including this world." The dragon proclaims, revealing his name and the grim reveal to the two. Natsumi stares with widened eyes while Tsukasa stares firmly as he looks at the decade card. The destruction of Rider worlds? This was just the beginning of their journey, one of which they had no choice with the path before them. End of part 2. Like and subscribe.